So from the jump, this show is conflict city. We've got family drama, money problems, a chaotic kitchen. Carmy is the new kid coming in, upsetting the apple cart. And on the surface, the stakes are pretty clear. But where it gets really interesting is when we start digging into the family, their dynamics, their past, and Carmy's relationship with his brother. I'm Victoria Griffin, a professional book editor, and this is the Edit POV, where I take you through my experience as an editor watching TV shows and films. Anytime I'm experiencing a story, whether it's a book or some other medium, I'm always thinking about what makes this story work or not work, and how can I apply that to my work and to editing for my clients. So in today's episode, we're talking about stakes in The Bear. Note that this is not a review of The Bear. I'm not here to evaluate it as a television show or tell you whether you should or shouldn't watch it. The purpose of this video is to explore what we as writers can learn from the storytelling.
Let it rip, buddy.
We talk about stakes a lot, especially when we're querying agents, and for good reason. Stakes are important. They're the reason that the reader cares. If the protagonist has a goal, but there are no consequences if they fail, then it doesn't really matter. And as I was watching The Bear, I just thought about how good of an example it is of a story that has very clear external stakes that are obvious, but then it also has some really strong internal stakes that may not be quite as obvious, but that really make the story and grab the viewer. They're the ones that pull at your heartstrings.
My heart.
Even if you don't really notice why, those stakes are still making you invested. Now, before we get into it, note that the following clips include strong language and spoilers up to season 3. As a reminder, stakes are the consequences if the protagonist or any character fails to meet their goal. Stakes are one of the key ingredients in conflict.
Where's the steak? Oh, there's no steak.
Which is when a character wants something, something else is in the way, and something is at risk if they fail. So that would be a goal, obstacle, and stakes. To set the stage in The Bear, we have Carmy, who was a high-profile New York chef. He moves home to Chicago after his older brother Mikey dies by suicide.
This is your brother's house. I was running it fine without you.
Why didn't he leave it to you then?
And Carmy takes over Mikey's restaurant, The Beef. Now, The Beef is not in good shape financially. So from the jump, this show is conflict city. We've got family drama, money problems, a chaotic kitchen. Carmy is the new kid coming in, upsetting the apple cart. And on the surface, the stakes are pretty clear. If Carmy doesn't turn the restaurant around and make it profitable, then he's going to lose the restaurant. All of these characters that we get to know will be out of a job. And we don't really know what that means for Carmy's future in a practical sense. Would he be able to go get another New York job? We really don't know. But just the threat of the restaurant going under is enough of an external stake to ground the story. But what makes an interesting character-driven story is rarely the external stake. When we look at this setup, big-time chef returns home to save failing family restaurant. That could be a Hallmark movie.
You sound like a Hallmark card.
But where it gets really interesting is when we start digging into the family, their dynamics, their past, and Carmy's relationship with his brother. We learn that Carmy wanted to work at The Beef with Mikey, and Mikey wouldn't have it. He pushed Carmy away. We never really figure out why. Maybe Mikey didn't want Carmy drawn into his troubles with drugs and substance abuse. Maybe he just thought Carmy was too talented to be working at a Chicago sandwich shop. But for whatever reason, Mikey did not want Carmy working with him in The Beef. So Carmy went out to New York and decided to be the best chef that he could possibly be. He got into the fine dining scene and really pushed himself. Much of what we see is not exactly healthy. He works under a chef whom I believe we can safely call abusive.
29,
Why are you serving broken sauces? Why? I get it. You have a short man's complex. You can barely reach over this fucking table, right? Is this why you have the tattoos and your cool little scars and you go out and you take your smoke breaks? It's fun, isn't it? But here's the thing. You're terrible at this. You're no good at it. Go faster, motherfucker. Keep going faster. Why are you so slow? Why are you so fucking slow?
And it takes such an emotional toll on Carmy that he actually suffers PTSD. We actually meet another chef who worked with him in New York, and that chef talks about how much better he became by trying to keep up with Carmy because he was just a machine. And we get the sense that Carmy wasn't just chasing after his passion, it's almost like he's running, like something is chasing him.
Run?
We finally get some insight when Carmy goes to Al-Anon and opens up about his relationship with his brother and about his career in New York and how it all fits together.
He stopped letting me into the restaurant a couple of years ago. He just cut me off cold, and that hurt, you know? And I think that flipped this switch in me where I was like, okay, fuck you, watch this. And because we had this connection through food, and he had made me feel so rejected and lame and shitty and uncool, I made this plan where I was gonna go work in all the best restaurants in the world. You know, like I'm gonna go work in real kitchens, like fuck mom and dad's piece of shit, right? And it sounds ridiculous, you know, me saying that now, but that's what I did. I felt like I could speak through the food, like I could communicate through creativity and that kind of confidence, you know, like I was good at something that was so new and that was so exciting, and I just wanted him to know that, and fuck, I just wanted him to be like, good job. And the more he wouldn't respond, and the more our relationship kind of strained, the deeper into this I went and the better I got. And the more people I cut out, the quieter my life got. And the routine of the kitchen was so consistent and exacting and busy and hard and alive, and I lost track of time, and he died. And he left me his restaurant. And over the last couple of months, I've been trying to fix it because it was in rough shape, and I think it's very clear that me trying to fix the restaurant was me trying to fix whatever was happening with my brother.
Somehow, Carmy has the idea that if he could become a good enough chef, he could save his brother's restaurant and therefore save his brother's life. It's not really clear how this works logically, since Mikey didn't want him in the restaurant. It doesn't seem like it has to work logically. That's just how Carmy feels. And so, when his brother died, he had failed. He felt like it was his responsibility to keep Mikey safe, and he didn't. And that gets highlighted when he and Richie are fighting through the freezer door.
Am I fucking you kid? Fucking loser. Yeah, at least I got a kid. You don't have shit. You don't have fucking shit. Where were you when we fucking put your fucking brother in the ground, you selfish piece of shit?
So when Mikey leaves Carmy his restaurant, Carmy has another chance. He failed to protect Mikey, and now the restaurant is all he has left. It's his brother's legacy, and if he lets it go under, then he's failed again. Those are stakes. If that restaurant goes under, Carmy is basically losing his brother all over again, and his entire identity crumbles. He has built his entire sense of self on becoming the best chef possible. He's dedicated his life to it. He has sacrificed everything else for it, including alienating his sister.
So, she's not really busy at work, huh?
Oh, no, she's, pissed at you.
Yeah, I owe her a call.
Or, like 50 calls.
He sacrificed relationships. We see him continue to sacrifice relationships during the show. And if this restaurant goes under, everything he did was for nothing. His entire sense of self is destroyed. And as we continue through the series, the stakes begin to shift a little bit. Because he's come here, he started forming relationships. And then as they transition to the Bear, the fine dining restaurant, and start chasing a Michelin star, he has to choose whether to stay in that path that he has known for most of his life of just completely shutting out everything except the work, or try to find a different way. And we still have these original stakes because if he tries to find some work-life balance and fails, then his brother's legacy is dead. But now he has these personal relationships that are at stake, and he also begins to question that identity. Is that who he wants to be?
How could you remember the name?
Because you're the bear, and I remember you.
So what can we learn from this? The biggest lesson that I would take away from The Bear is to remember to consider your character's internal stakes. When we're talking about stakes, so often we're thinking about the external. What happens if the protagonist fails? Well, something bad, something blows up.
Boom.
Someone gets hurt, a killer goes free. And these sorts of stakes can add tension to the story, and they are important. But I would argue that they are not as important as the internal stakes.
Hey, you forgot your steak.
The internal stakes are all wrapped up in your protagonist's motivation and in their character arc and growth. What are the personal stakes for your protagonist? What are the emotional stakes, the psychological stakes? And to figure that out, you have to think about more than what's going on in the course of the story. You have to think about their backstory, who they are, what they've been through, what hurts them, what fears that they have, and how they feel about themselves.
Problem you're facing, it's about emotion, right?
And this is not just something that you do for your protagonist. You do this for all of your characters for a really strong, well-rounded story. Even for The Bear, you can pick out multiple characters here and run this same process of breaking down their internal stakes, which I may do. Leave a comment with the character you would like to see. And yes, this is a lot of work. It's not simple. It's more complicated than if the character doesn't defuse the bomb in time, then a bus explodes.
Gotta get my turtleneck. What the? I'm not defusing a bomb in this.
But these are the elements that make readers feel something. And that's what they'll remember, and that's what keeps them turning pages or clicking next episode. Thanks for watching. I hope you can apply this to your own writing. Be sure to subscribe to see new episodes of the Edit POV. I'm Victoria Griffin, author and editor. Thanks for hanging out with me. Now go write something.
25 pounds?
No, I ordered 200.
What is beef?
You still got that meat connect?
You get $12.50 for that on eBay.
Boom.